Good afternoon, T-Wolves! Mr. Quentin here with what we did for today. Yes, Friday, November the 6th, 2020, National Nachos Day, y'all. I am super excited, and I hope you are too. So, we're going to pretend that we're 8th period right now, but you, of course, are going to go to whatever period you have me in, and then we're going to go to quarter 2. We're going to go to week of November 2nd. We're going to jump into Friday, and you will see that, yep, there's National Nacho Day, folks. It's an actual website that you too can go and check out and find out all about National Nacho Day if you so desire. That's right, I'm all about it. So we can maybe have a little bit of fun with that, but hey, that's for you to see there. All right, but what we really did go over today, basic institutions. Folks, this is what's important. We need to go through and do this digital notebook today. And please note, there's a vocabulary alert. There were too many definitions. I didn't want to just plaster the screen with definitions. So please be on the lookout for government, economic, educational, and religious institutions throughout the digital notebook. Folks, there are going to be slides dedicated to those specific institutions and their definitions. So we are going to jump right in. You will see here, folks, that we do have the fact that we've got institutions that are basic to all societies. Everything that you think of when you, from the time you wake up into the morning till the time you go to bed, wraps around the institutions that set up and run our society. So you're going to start here with a little video introduction. So make sure you watch that video. A very short video, only about 3 minutes. So you can definitely watch that there. And then be able to answer those questions about what institutions are. And they are simply the core parts of a society that help impose the structure, that help us build culture. And there are things like the police station, schools, hospitals, businesses, all sorts of stuff, because they fit within those different institutions. They also provide a way for people to interact and depend on that social structure, and it gives us more culture with which to use, that we can either learn from, that we can grow with, or that we can create on our own. Amongst our own society, because as we learned today or yesterday in multiculturalism, you can't create a culture just by yourself. So there's a benefit. That's what they are. Folks, you got to remember there are 4 basic institutions. Oh, there they are: government, economic, educational, and religious. So you're going to want to make sure you take a look down here and then move into looking at what the government institution is. And you can see here the government institutions are how we create our rules and our social order for making laws and helping resolve conflicts and keeping citizens in check and keeping them in order, as well as protecting their rights. An example here that I have would be the United States Congress. It's made up of the House of Representatives and the Senate. If we didn't have them, there would be nobody to enforce the laws. We'd have no laws made, and we'd have anarchy, which is no law at all. People just doing anything they wanted. And we'd have no way to build or maintain our culture. We also have economic institutions that refer to the practices that a society uses for basic needs. So there's where we get our buildings, our grocery stores, things like what I have here, an example, Target, a multi-billion-dollar retail that sells all sorts of items in various departments. I'm sure most people have been to a Target. Without these economic institutions, there would be no way for our goods and services to go around and be spread, which means there'd be no money for people to be able to do things with the culture that they have, or perhaps even grow or maintain the culture that we have. We also have our educational institution. Those are the things that give us our schools. They give us our higher institutions of learning, that give us a way to actually be able to have functional members of society who have learning and have an education with which to participate in society. So I chose as an example, my alma mater, Sam Houston State University. But if we didn't have them, again, children might grow up without proper education, limiting their ability to productively participate in society. And that would hinder our culture. Last but not least would be the religious institutions. Folks, those are things that help provide our values as a society. They're not the only things, but they do generally help give us our values. They also tend to lead to our celebrations and our holidays, which also make up a big part of our culture in our society. For example, there will be many people after Thanksgiving who will be celebrating Hanukkah, and they'll be celebrating Christmas, they'll be celebrating Kwanzaa. These are all different aspects that come primarily through religions, although Kwanzaa does not. So, my example was the Latter day Saints Temple in Spring, Texas. You might have seen it. It's over by Champions Forest and Cypress Wood. It's the really big, beautiful looking church building out there. And again, without religious institutions, we might not have those holidays and celebrations. So, our culture might look very, very different without them. And so after you take a look through all those, and again, there's your definitions for those terms, you can come over here. You'll see that you have the ability to manipulate this slide so that you can go back and forth across it, and you'd be able to move back and forth and then move these things around. Okay? All of these items will be off to the side of the slide, and then you'll be able to grab them and move them around. They'll be off to the side of the slide, so you can move the slide back and forth. You'll be able to move it back and right. There will be a bar down here at the bottom for you. And so you're going to want to sort those tiles into their respective categories. Then, now that you've had a little bit of fun doing that, you are going to have the chance to give me at least one complete and complex sentence using each term. Now, you'll notice if you look closely that I went ahead and used the plural, government institutions, economic institutions. You feel free to do the same thing if it helps you make your sentences. All right, so you can see here that I've used one. If I read my educational institution here. So, Schindewolf Intermediate and Yale are two types of educational institutions that allow us to learn how to be effective members of society, increasing the chance for other cultural traits to develop. That's just one example that you can have. And then, of course, you have one sentence for each aspect. Finally, which institution do you think is the most important and why? I say that I believe that government institutions are the most important because they provide the foundational structure upon which we can build our economic, educational, and religious institutions. Now, folks, as I have said before, I do not expect collegiate level writing. These are just examples that you can use for inspiration. As I've said before, the fancy word exemplar. All right, so you can follow along here. Also, if you have any questions, you can always reach out. But once you're done, you've got this all filled out, you're just going to go ahead and submit it with the big blue submit button here in Schoology. And as always, if you do have questions, send me a note in Schoology, send me an email, and I'll be happy to get back to you. Thank you so very much. I hope you have an amazing weekend. Mr. Quinton, out.